Dr. Mars here. Greetings to all my followers on YouTube and Twitch. Okay, I'm going to share commentary on the new game called The Last Night, recently announced at E3 this year. As I'm a big fan of Cyberpunk, I keep my radar switched on for games in this genre and was quite stunned by the look and feel of the game. The Last Night is a 3D cinematic RPG set in Gibsonian cyberpunk world. In this video, I'll share everything I've learned about the game in recent days, such as the publisher's forthcoming release dates, background on the game's director and his art style, DNA of the game's development history, this game's unfortunate relationship to Gamergate. So let's get into it. First off, some context. This game had humble beginnings. As a short, moody cyberpunk adventure game, it was made in 6 days by Tim and Adrian Soret. Their simple flash demo won the Cyberpunk Jam competition in 2014. After that, Tim and Adrian formed Odd Tales and began making the game with a proper budget. I've included links to the game in the video notes, so go ahead and give it a try. I think you'll also be struck by its distinctive look and feel. Then, after the recent E3 trailer was released, it made waves. Like everyone else, I want to say that this game looks freaking awesome. While I'm a huge Cyberpunk fan, I think everyone is awestruck by the artistic direction taken by the developers. Gameplay has yet to be fully confirmed with the demo, but it seems to be a side-scrolling, action, 3D RPG with a 1980s 2D pixelated overlay, giving it a completely fresh take on the RPG playstyle. It has obviously turned a lot of heads. Its wacky mix of 2 and 3D stylization has a look and feel being dubbed 2.5D, which I think we may see more of given the popularity of retro gaming. Regarding the release date, there's no solid info to share yet. The Last Night is slated to come out on Xbox and PC in 2018, but when I go to the developer's website, I do see that the Mac platform is also mentioned, so take it for what it's worth. Maybe we'll see a Mac version in the future as a follow-up release. If I see more about this, I'll post an update in the comments. Now, the publisher is Raw Fury, and the developer is Odd Tales in England. And within Odd Tales, we have a director named Tim Soret, who's responsible for art direction and gameplay. His vision is to bring about a more memorable experience and avoid the repetitive nature and tedium seen in many modern platform games. While I wasn't at E3, where I suspect Soret made comments to this effect, I think his desire to leverage 2D pixelation is exemplified by a post he made back in 2013 on pixelation.org. Tim Soret said, "I dislike in video games since a few years. This is why on this generation, PS3 and Xbox, you don't have a lot of games you will be reminded of deeply. They are generic. You can almost replace assets from one game with another. Try to do this on 2D games. No, they all looked unique. They all left a stamp in our visual memory." Now, Blade Runner is also mentioned as an inspiration for the game, but I would point out that while it for sure has the look and feel of the game, the roots of the busy sprawl-like city with all its neon and Japanese billboards extends deeper into the written works of William Gibson and other cyberpunk authors that came out in the early 80s. Does anyone remember Neuromancer by Interplay Production back in 1989? It was awesome. Hey, now that I think about it, maybe William Gibson could team up with Tim Soret and make a reboot. Wouldn't that be amazing? Alright, it's an awesome idea, but I gotta focus on this video. Focus. Anyway, also came across references to older games that are cited as inspiration. Flashback is a game that Soret mentions on indie gaming site itch.io. I can also guess he was a fan of Flashback's 2D cinematic gameplay when it came out on the Sega and the Nintendo consoles. The concept DNA here is pretty strong. It's a science fiction cinematic platform where we take a role of Agent Conrad, who is chased by mutants and shape-shifting aliens in various futuristic settings, including the sprawling cyberpunk-esque city of New Washington. But while there was a pretty good Ubisoft remake in 2013 sporting a modern 3D experience, the real connection lies with the 1992 version. Its 8-bit style graphics, while simple by today's standards, was pretty groundbreaking for its time. Now, as a further point of interest about Flashback, I saw Full Install's YouTube video where he referenced French software maker Delphine and their 1991 release of Another World, beautifully created by Eric Chahi. Full Install quotes Flashback as a spiritual successor to Another World. Is that true? Another World is very similar with 2D scrolling cinematographic gameplay, and was certainly popular, having been released in the United States, Europe, and Japan. But I don't know if Tim Soret was a fan of Another World. I can only guess he knows the game, and I did find a tweet by him a few years ago trying to get in touch with Chahi, so maybe there is some kind of linkage to The Last Night. If anyone knows anything more about that, please feel free to share their knowledge in the comments. Finally, I suppose we need to address the last night and Soret's relation to Gamergate. I have to assume that you may be familiar with it. If you're not, see the YouTube link I provided to Game Objectives video. I think he's done a pretty good job covering the topic and how it's tied to Soret. In short, Soret made comments during the 2014 Gamergate movement and indicated he was against feminism, after which he publicly apologized to no avail because Gamergate victims, along with their internet mob, wants to keep dragging this whole issue into the limelight. Quite honestly, I really don't want this video to devolve by making this topic central in any way. I would only say the following. Tim Soret has apologized a number of times for saying things that, in my opinion, represent a misunderstanding. I would ask everyone to simply check out the links below to what he actually said and determine if those comments truly represent a negative worldview. From my perspective, they represent the words of a thoughtful person. I, for one, want everyone to put Gamergate in the past and just let The Last Night be the great game we all want it to be. There. Are all of you out on the internet happy now? You're not happy, are you? Oh well. Anyway, in conclusion, I think The Last Night will be one of the most interesting games to play next year, and I can't wait to get my hands on it. If anyone has information to share about its upcoming release or the game itself, please make comments on YouTube or Twitch. I'll be streaming Flashback gameplay on Twitch as a way of preparing myself for The Last Night's release. I've also streamed the dark and moody prototype of The Last Night that's available as a Flash web game on itch.io. If either of these games are a good indication of what The Last Night will be like, I'm keeping my expectations high. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe and share.